I wish I had the money to pay for commissions right. Um, yeah. So I've paid, I have a lot of commissions. I have more commissions than I can probably afford. Um, I have actually have over on this wall. I think it's been in one of my videos, but it is an original Simon Bisley, um, John Constantine. Simon Bisley did the covers of I think the last 50 or so issues of Hellblazer. And one of the groups I'm in on Facebook, I think his manager or somebody was in that group and mentioned in the group that he had a couple of slots open. He was at a Comic Con and a couple of people had dipped out. And so he had a couple of slots open cheaper than his normal rate because he was just trying to fill them. And I was able to grab one up. And so I have essentially a cover quality original John Constantine drawing from Simon Bisley. I've definitely spent more money on artwork than I probably should have. Also gotten complimentary artwork. This one is my character Leander, who is based on me, as you can see. He's got his hummingbird. Yep, his hummingbird right there, Buzz. That's my 3D printed version of Buzz. This one was done by Meg Quins, who's right here on TikTok, who does commission artwork. It's Megquins. And I was given that by an absolutely fantastic friend for, was it my birthday? It might have been my birthday. Is there a franchise I'd love to write for? I would. Well, the X Files is now canceled. The first fan fiction I ever wrote was for the X Files. It was for Christmas. That's right. The first fan fiction I ever wrote was for the X Files. Probably the X Files would be my first. Now that I've only ever watched the first 8 episodes of Supernatural. To me, Supernatural was sort of an alternate universe version of the X Files. It was made by a lot of the same people, and there was almost sort of that same dynamic, that Mulder Scully dynamic between Dean and Sam. Uh, Went longer, and the topic, the material was more. I found myself more drawn to that material than I had been to the X Files, which is ironic since I watched almost all of the X Files and didn't watch almost any of Supernatural. Um, Current TV shows, I don't really know because I don't actually watch almost any current TV. I would rather write something original for TV. Did you know they had to make special platforms for Scully because she was so short? I do remember reading about that, yeah. Um, I had an idea that I kind of every now and then go back to. It was an idea originally called Drifter, but then I changed it to, because there was a comic book called Drifter, but I think I changed it to Synchrony. And it was about a character who had the ability to project his mind through time and space. And so it was designed to be a time travel story, but not a time machine story. So he was able to travel into the past, into the future, essentially through astral projection. And the idea was that he couldn't physically interact with the past or the future, but he could get information and he could communicate with people. So it sort of used the version of time travel from the movie Frequency. And the main character is a private investigator whose company is called, or his firm, it's just him, but he calls it Synchrony Inc. And he uses his ability as a private investigator. So like if he were hired to find a missing person, he could travel into the past. He could project himself into the past to find out what happened and then come back to the present, go find the person. Nothing for Doctor Who or Lord of the Rings, maybe Marvel or D&D. Man, I didn't think of this. It would be Doctor Who. Yeah, absolutely, because I had an idea for an entire series, season arc of Doctor Who. But Synchrony essentially would be my version of Doctor Who, except it wouldn't be an alien. It would be a human. And it was sort of a setup for a larger universe of people with powers, because by the end of the first season, this main character was going to discover that big corporation was the big bad, and this corporation had one of its assets was a 11, 12-year-old kid who they were developing essentially injectable powers from. Like, this kid had a natural power, and this company had reverse engineered his genetics to create powers that it could then give to people or sell to people or use as blackmail for people. And that was going to be the larger arc of the story from toward the beginning of it. If I could make my own version of the Doctor, what would they be like? Oh, I don't know. The version of the Doctor that I had in the one season that I had, and I think I talked about this last week, was the Doctor would land on, in a park, something, and encounter a person who had no memory of who they were. And so then, of course, the Doctor is intrigued by this person. This person becomes the mystery of the season. And I don't know. I think the person would have a pocket watch, but I don't know, because in the end, that's the item, and I don't know if it's too heavy-handed, if people would pick up on it too quickly. But over the course of this season, the Doctor and this companion are following these clues and in the search for this person's identity. And in the end, it turns out that the companion is actually the next incarnation of the Doctor. But the process of regenerating caused the Doctor to lose their memory. And so the season would end with the current incarnation of the Doctor regenerating and losing their memory. So then for that little bit of time, there would be two identical versions of that same Doctor. But that the newest regenerated version of the Doctor then has no memory, and so the companion version, who has regained their memory, knows they are the Doctor, would then take the memoryless version of the Doctor back to where they were found and leave them there, and then leave in the TARDIS, and then that episode would end with the original same scene. So it would actually be a visual loop. This the first scene of the first episode of the Doctor arriving, the previous incarnation of the Doctor arriving to find them, like Day of the Doctor, yeah, but over the course of a whole season. And so essentially the entire season is a multi-Doctor story, but we don't know it until the end. Scully would witness the most wild paranormal stuff and still stay a skeptic after. Yeah. Yeah, she was always looking for the naturalistic explanation. And almost always found at least some. There was always some element of, even when it was aliens, even extraterrestrials still follow natural rules. Remember that episode of the X-Files when they finally meet an actual alien? Yeah. Yep. I remember the one episode later, I think they went, I want to say it was in the 6th season, where almost every episode would start with, Mulder's got a case, he wants them to investigate, Scully's saying it's not aliens, and they'd have their little disagreement, and eventually they would go and investigate. And it was like the 6th season, and they start having that conversation, and Mulder just cuts it off and is like, we always have this conversation. You always say it's not this. I always say it is. Most of the time it turns out to be. So why don't we just skip this conversation and just go look? And the alien says that they want nothing to do with humans. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I am mathematically convinced that there is intelligent life elsewhere in the universe, and also almost certain that if it ever came here, it would not consider us intelligent life. So the idea that something could have come here, or something comes here and like scoops us up and experiments on us, not that far-fetched because it essentially considers us like livestock. I am playing with dice down here. I have my now the D4. I do have my set here. The ones I keep picking up are the D12 and the D20. Humans are basically space orcs. Yeah, that is an extremely appropriate description. Possibly space trolls. We are a planet of space orcs and space trolls. Yeah. No, this dice set that I have right here, I got specifically for our Goliath character. And then I have a dice set for every character in the campaign. And I also have die sets for every character from our previous campaign in like a bead box. So essentially I have a campaign box, a campaign dice box. And like when we finished the Strahd campaign, I retired that one. I think that one's out in the dining room. Although I continue to add die to it, because like the two characters who, the satyr and the water genasi, we at least know had triplets. So I bought 3 sets of mini die that represent their triplets. These characters have never appeared in any session, but because we decided after the fact that these characters eventually were created, I bought them dice set, and those dice set are in that box. I like the idea that things we see as normal can be seen as deadly to all other aliens. Yeah, like we drink water, but aliens see water as a weapon of war. Yep, that was part of the plot of the M. Night Shyamalan movie with Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix. It saddens me that I can't think of what it was called. I want to say it was his 3rd movie. Signs. That's what it was. If the rocks cannot ponder consciousness, what forms of being could even we be unaware to? This is the other way that I stim. This is how I stim with the die during games, is sitting here like this. And then I'll just sit out like this. Just turning it, just turning it, just turning it. Or with the D12. Just turning it, just turning it, just turning it. So now I'm going to get in position so that I can cut. Yeah, I find a cut. Let's see here. Now I had one idea for an alien story, but I didn't know how to write it, because the idea was that essentially that humans are partially alien. The idea was that we are matter and energy, and so I imagined the energy as the consciousness being something from elsewhere in the universe. And so it was a wave of energy just moving through the universe. And it was kind of a collective mind. It was a we, but it was, and this was part of the reason that I couldn't figure out quite how to write it, was that it was a collective consciousness. And the idea was that this wave of energy at some point moving through the universe hits the earth, and part of it becomes imbued into a humanoid creature, the humanoid creatures on this planet, and becomes the consciousness of humans. And so we are terrestrial matter imbued with cosmic energy and consciousness. but I could not figure out quite how to write that from a character perspective. Like, it could be written almost from a poetic perspective, like just a description, but I never really kind of got my mind around how to write that. Someone's trying to guest star today. Let's see if he'll come over. It's Fluffernutter J. How do I feel about mushrooms? If you're talking about psychedelically, I have never partaken. We do have a mycelium theme going on now. There he is. I look like I enjoy history. I do. Certain parts of it. You've got CPTSD really bad. Mushrooms change your life. It's the kind of thing I kind of wish I had done in the past. Like, it's an experience I wish I had, especially as a writer. But I feel like I am past the point in my life where that's a responsible thing to do. What are you doing? He's wandering around behind me now. We should all LARP as troll-baited theists. Right. Dang, I'm trying to get them in here. Use it just like a medicine, be safe with it. Right, yeah. And that is part of it for me is the stigma of it. Because it is just like any other pharmaceutical. And there are pharmaceuticals that have a far greater effect than that does that are legal to use. By the way, how are you, my guy? I am good, Plaguer. I am done work for the week. So this doctor that's a companion, what are they like? I don't know. I never got that far into it. It's someone, it would be an interesting character examination because since this person has no memory, they don't know really who they are. So it would be interesting writing that because it's someone who's going to try different things and then be like, wait, no, I don't like that. No. They're going to try things not knowing whether or not they're going to like it. They're going to act certain ways, not knowing whether this is a way that they should act or a way that people would know them to act. And it's an interesting examination of what is core to a person. So if it's a situation where they feel this impulse to be mean to someone, say something mean, and then do it, and then have this moment of just complete remorse. It's a moment where they've learned, I have this ability to say cutting things, but I don't like the way that saying those things makes me feel. And it's like this whole season becomes a discovery of who this person is. And so as a writer, that's probably how I would write it. I would write the first episode not knowing this person's personality. And right, yeah. And right when he was eating the custard and fish sticks. It's interesting. I'm really glad you can find time to go live. I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate your appreciation. Right, yeah, somewhat similar to the 11th. And so there would be an interesting dynamic then between the Doctor and the companion too, because the Doctor has that experience or knows that they've had that experience, and so is kind of a guide. And then in a way, it's this very deeply psychological season because it is the Doctor who knows they are the Doctor guiding a person they don't know is the Doctor to figure out who they are, which is the Doctor. Oh, I have been knighted. It's called history because it's his story. Yes, Beamer, but it is also called heritage. The other cat wants to come in now. He found out his brother was in here and he was jealous. Plaguer, I appreciate the knighting. I appreciate the knight helmet. I am actually descended from a Knight Templar. He was my 25th great-grandfather, Sir Reginald de Crawford. Yeah, Beamer, I did a video one time about it's the idea of history. The idea of calling it his story is not linguistically accurate, but it does make a good point about patriarchal society. But I made the argument that history is the chronology of events. It's sort of the bland recitation of stories. Heritage is culture. It's society. It's the people who lived history. And so I made the argument that it's more important to have heritage than it is to have his story. How funny would it be if the Doctor was Jesus with the whole regeneration? I mean, that's a really good idea that they would never dare to pull. I don't know, the BBC might. There's a better than 0% chance that they would do that. Because, I mean, it would be a perfect explanation within the Doctor Who universe. I now have two. I have a bobcat and a panther crawling around the room now. Well, we'll have to try to bait the trolls in later. Imagine that's how they introduced the new Doctor. It's just like the Passion of the Christ, except at the end of the story, we're inside the tomb is in fact the TARDIS, with the chameleon circuit working. Lazarus was the first companion. I'm actually kind of intrigued by this idea now. Doctor Who, who's the TARDIS? Who's the TARDIS? Doctor Who, who's the Doctor? You can't spell atheist without he is. You can't spell patriot without riot. You can't spell atheist without the is. You can't spell atheist without at he is. I mean, Jesus did have companions, right? He had 12. What if all of the apostles were actually regenerations of Jesus? The Last Supper was the ultimate multi-doctor story. See, now that the cats are in the room, they want to leave the room. That is quintessential to the nature of the cat. You want to go? Okay. I am very intrigued by the idea that the tomb was actually the TARDIS. Nimue, if you're still here, I decided what the crow's name was. This crow is Hugin. Old Norse for thought. I was deciding whether it was going to be Hugin or Munyan. I went with thought over memory. Want to come up? Oh, just a big boy. Oh, just a big man. Hello. Okay, now we're going to get all the viewers. Oh, I know. You blend in with the chair. It would be interesting if the Jesus Doctor was the doctor to finally be a ginger. Oh no. You have a good night too, Plager. What? No. I love that you can't really tell that there's a cat there. Angels are just the Time Lords. I think you're talking about like theological angels are actually Time Lords, because my immediate thought was weeping angels, and I was like, no, they're not Time Lords. See, buddy, I gotta wear a white shirt for you to stand out against. Because right now it literally looks like I'm just scratching my own shoulder. Now people are going to wonder if it's me that's the atheist or the cat. Or maybe humans just got the idea of angels from the doctor talking about weeping angels. I mean, that's entirely possible too. Is that possible? I think it's possible. Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to say, huh? Remember when Rory protected Amy as a Centaurian soldier? Oh, yeah. Yeah, their story, Amy and Rory, one of the best couplings on that show. I don't think Rory was human at that point, but I don't remember. Now he wants to leave. That's right. That version was an Auton duplicate. Essentially a mannequin. Now he wants to leave too. Is it because your brother's out there? Hush. If Rory was able to live all those years, how was he affected by weeping angels? Well, also he was an Auton, so The weeping angel. Well, now that's an interesting question, because from what I remember, when weeping angels send you back in time, they essentially they essentially steal the rest of your life energy by sending you back in time. If he's an auton who would essentially live hundreds or thousands of years, then whoever the angel that sent him back would have gotten a lot of time energy out of him. Yeah, let's see. While traveling with Amy, then his fiancée, in the 11th Doctor in the TARDIS, Rory Williams was fatally shot by Restak and erased from time when his corpse was consumed by a nearby crack in time. That was in Cold Blood. An Auton duplicate of Rory, created as part of the Pandorica Alliance's plan to prevent the Doctor from destroying the universe, had been formed from psychic residue from Amy's home, including a children's book on Roman centurions and a photograph of Amy and Rory taken at a costume party where Rory had worn a Roman centurion costume. The Nestine consciousness created a fake Roman army and included the replicant of Rory Williams. It placed them near Stonehenge in the year 102 AD as part of an elaborate trap for the Doctor. While the Auton Roman soldiers believed they were indeed Romans, the Auton version of Rory retained the memories and personality of the real Rory. He initially dismissed his other life as a dream. Also, if he was sent back so many years, then Amy wouldn't end up in the same time as Rory. I don't know if I don't remember if they ever explained the particulars of, I think this is probably a headcanon. I think I always imagined that a particular weeping angel always sent someone who looked at them back to the same moment. Which doesn't quite work then, because every single person they ever looked at would then just appear simultaneously in the same moment. It's possible that so it would depend on if the amount of time that an angel sent someone back was determined by how much more that person had to live. So if there was a person who had 10 more years to live, because they only had 10 years of life energy, when they look at an angel, they would be sent back 10 years. If they had another 60 years to live, they would get sent back 60 years. If that's the case, then Amy and Rory would not have been sent back to the same point in time unless they were destined to die together, in which case they would have exactly the same amount of time left. What if Rory is the face of Bo? Possible. Less likely. I think the writers dropped that line of Jack calling him deliberately to set that up. Let's see here. Did they really ever explain? Let's see. In 1996, Rory was working as a security guard at the museum where the Pandorica was now kept. There, he reunited with Amy when the Pandorica was opened by a younger version of her, freeing the older Amy from the Pandorica. Can a weeping angel affect the Doctor? Yes, because as far as I remember, that's what happened in that first episode, Blink, or the first episode the angels appeared in, was that the Doctor, Martha and the Doctor both got sent back in time by an angel. It's been so long since I watched those episodes. I wish I had watched them more recently, but yeah. So the original human Rory was restored in the Big Bang. So in 1996, Rory informed the Doctor of his previous meeting in 102 AD, leading the Doctor to travel back in time to have his original encounter with Rory. Ultimately, the Doctor piloted the Pandorica into the heart of the exploding TARDIS, which restored the universe. but also rewrote much of its history. The Doctor was removed from reality, and with him gone, the Auton version of Rory was likewise removed from history. The original human Rory was restored, his death never having occurred. That was in The Big Bang. As the Doctor was remembered by Amy, he reappeared at her and Rory's wedding, at which point Rory remembered being plastic. On their honeymoon, Rory wore his Roman outfit, while Amy assumed her kissogram police officer costume. While meeting a future version of the 11th Doctor in Utah, Rory was greeted as Rory the Roman. Rory confided in the present Doctor that he could remember the 2,000 years he spent waiting for Amy as the last Centurion. However, he added that he did not remember it all the time, likening it to a door in his head he could shut. So you can reverse the effects of a weeping angel. I don't know that you can specifically reverse them. I think once they happen, you can find ways around them. Because Martha and the Doctor had been sent back to 1969, but then had been rescued from 1969. So you're not permanently stuck if you have a means of time travel. If you don't have a means of time travel, you just have to live it out. On the Doctor's idea, Rory later adopted the mantle of the last Centurion again when it was revealed that the now pregnant Amy had been abducted. As a Centurion, he faced the cyber leader of the 12th Cyber Legion, which was destroyed by the Doctor, learning that Amy was at the space station Demon's Run. He then appeared at Stormcage Containment Facility to recruit River Song, who questioned his attire. Learning the Doctor chose it, River observed his rules of engagement. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. To which Rory added, look ridiculous, while River jokingly suggested heels. However, River informed Rory that she could not participate in what she knew to be the Battle of Demon's Run. Meanwhile, at Demon's Run, Amy told her baby daughter, whom she named Melody Pond, about her father. So then couldn't the 11th Doctor save Rory and Amy? He could, and I believe that possibility was written out as a fixed point in time, which I feel like I remember thinking that they introduced those as ways to get around the fact that time travel could undo pretty much anything. And I feel like they changed the nature of Weeping Angels over time too. And I feel like, I don't remember if they did this in any episode, but I feel like the idea might also be that different angels have different levels of permanence. Like a stronger Weeping Angel can have a more permanent effect on someone, or can have more control over where it sends someone. Oh yeah, the River's sonic screwdriver, yeah. It was awesome. Let's see. This is so the Doctor Who wiki is called TARDIS.fandom.com. Yeah, that's right. She had the sonic trowel. It is also how River Song's story happens in the reverse to the Doctor's. Yes. Yep. What kind of atheist are you? Human? Atheist? Atheist is such a low point word. That's embarrassing. Is it? I'm not embarrassed. Are you embarrassed by the sight of a word that you don't even identify with? In Scrabble. It is Scrabble. You I think, are the first one who I did, because somebody else thought that it was periodic table symbols, which is pretty cool. Are you atheist because of things you know or because of things you don't know? The word atheist has nothing to do with what one does or does not know. I am an atheist because I do not believe in gods. Whether or not I know something determines whether or not I am agnostic. Meaning you Gnostic or agnostic? Well, everyone is agnostic because no one knows whether trans-dimensional beings exist. Nobody knows what exists outside the universe. If anything exists outside the universe, if there is an outside to the universe. My favorite Doctor Who episode is probably Blink, which is ironic because it has the least of the Doctor in it. Doctor Who hot take. I don't know that it's a hot take. I believe the War Doctor was the 8th Doctor. They were not two separate doctors. And the numbering of the regenerations was maintained because the 8th Doctor had to use the energy of an entire regeneration to activate the moment. D&D hot take. I don't know. I don't know if I know enough D&D yet to I think my hot take is that it has to do with percentile dice. About I think it's the 00. I consider 00 on the 1d10 to. I'd have to remember what it is. Demogorgon is overrated. There you go. Strahd was overrated. He didn't even kill any of us. There was he did not kill a single member of our party. Would you say you don't know whether or not there is a magical god, or would you say you know there isn't? I don't know what you mean by magical. When I use the word God, I am referring to a being with the ability to create realities that exists outside the universe. So your question is, would I say I don't know whether or not that kind of being exists, or that I know there isn't? I would say that it is impossible to know if such a being exists. What do I think about the 8th Doctor? I like the 8th Doctor. I like the actor who played the 8th Doctor too. I was going to say I would love to see more. See, the 8th Doctor's, almost the entire 8th Doctor's run was in audio. But I do enjoy the 8th Doctor. Favorite episode is either the Titanic or 10's last two. I mean, 10's finale was intense and fantastic. Which number Doctor is Doctor Strange? I don't want to go. Exactly. That was the first thought that I had when Peter Parker turned to dust in Avengers Infinity War. Spoiler alert. But I think he said something so close to I don't want to go that I immediately thought of 10. Not the 10 saying he doesn't want to go, only to come back as the 14th, right? This face again. Turns to ash. Question: is my profession in arts, science, engineering, or other? Technically speaking, arts, because my certification is in linguistics and my degree is in English literature. These teeth. My hobbies are in science, the sciences. I am curious about what that one commenter was asking about, like how they were using the word magic. Wanda clears TOAA negative. I'd love to have the power to understand any language and be able to write and speak it. Yeah, just chatting before bed. Random channel with cool stuff. Thank you, Stephen. I don't try to keep it random. That's just sort of the way my brain does things. That's why for a long time in my bio, I didn't really know what to put in there because I was like, this channel doesn't exist for the purpose of delivering a specific kind of content. So finally I was like, no, it's just a mixed bag. It's just whatever particular thoughts are rattling around inside my cranium on a particular day. Not enough space for more description than saying magic. Yeah, that's fine. Wand declares the one above all, no difficulty. Is what Beamer. Oh yeah, that's why I don't even think I have to die on the hill that Wanda is the most powerful Avenger because she can alter reality with a thought. So Thor throws his hammer and she says no more hammers, and Mjolnir vanishes. Not only vanishes from reality, but vanishes from all of reality. Mjolnir not only doesn't exist, but never existed. Have I seen the pics of the giant sphere in Vegas? The eye that reminds me of the Matt episode. I don't think I have. Yeah, the only I had a video. I think the only characters I could imagine having a chance against Wanda was not even Doctor Strange, but was Makari and Druig from the Eternals working together. I'd love to see WandaVision, Wanda fight in Endgame or Infinity War. Oh yeah. Oh, I would love to see Multiverse of Madness Wanda, like the villain Wanda fighting against a bigger villain, because that's the idea. That's how you make an. I won't say she was an evil character, but that's how you make an evil character interesting. Is you put them up against a greater evil. She was no. See, I don't think she goes full evil because evil delights in causing suffering. She saw it as a means to an end. She essentially went Thanos. She saw whatever she had to inflict as necessary to achieve a desired outcome. She didn't enjoy it. And that to me is the line between evil and destructive. I mean, Druig was capable. I don't think he ever did it, but Druig was capable of controlling the mind of every human being on Earth. We saw him control thousands of minds at once. So if there was a character capable of controlling Wanda's mind long enough for Makari as a speedster to move in, it would have been Druig. Just imagine Infinity Gauntlet Thanos versus the Multiverse of Madness Wanda. Why do you do these things to me? That is that's my bucket list. That's what I want to see. Somewhere in the multiverse that happened. I had that video too. I think it was what if Wanda had gotten a hold of the Infinity Stones? I mean, I feel like fully loaded Infinity Gauntlet Thanos versus Multiverse of Madness Wanda breaks the multiverse. Like I don't know. I think they both win and they both lose. I feel like the outcome of that fight is not Thanos loses and Wanda wins, or Wanda wins and Thanos loses. It is a fracturing of the timeline into two new universes in which both outcomes occur. Because they both have control over time, they both have control over reality. So who wins? Yes. breaks and rebuilds with each attack each one of them make. Yeah. I don't even know if there was an instant. It would have been something from a Doctor Strange movie. Yes, it would have been a scene that almost looked like the fight in the Mirror Universe. I think from the first Doctor Strange movie. Because, like, they both have power over reality. Like, theoretically, either of them could erase the other's power. I think Wanda has the ability, the more innate ability, because she could erase the Infinity Stones from reality, unless there were some sort of contingency where she tries to and it doesn't work, because the explanation being that the Infinity Stones are somehow quintessential to the existence of reality. Like, erasing the Infinity Stones is the equivalent of erasing reality. Because even Thanos, in the end, didn't erase them. He reduced them to atoms and dispersed their energy back out into the universe. So he destroyed them, but he didn't erase them. So if Wanda erased them, it's possible she erases all of reality. And then the question of whether Thanos could use the gauntlet to take away Wanda's power, because Wanda is a Nexus being. Her power is chaos magic itself. And so for him to do that, he might have to erase chaos magic from the fabric of reality, which could completely rip apart the tapestry of reality. Maybe a fight between Infinity Gauntlet Thanos and Multiverse of Madness Wanda creates the multiverse. So if Wanda was not erased, she could have brought back the stones. It's possible. I don't know that she had control over time. So I don't know that she can necessarily go back in time. But theoretically, it's not even that difficult. It's not even like she would have to create something from nothing. All she would have to do, she would have to be powerful enough to be able to control the individual atoms and particles of energy. Because all she would be doing is calling back together something that had already been integrated. So she would have to... A fully trained, like a Wanda who understood quantum mechanics could have done it. See, my brain right now is feeling kind of loosened up. So Multiverse of Madness Wanda could do it. I think so, yeah. I think that is... Multiverse of Madness Wanda was like Dad Bod Thor, the most powerful version. Infinity Gauntlet Wanda with America Chavez's powers. I mean, she's essentially God tier at that point. She is able to create realities of her own. Well, see, even without America Chavez's powers, the version from the What If video that I made, where Wanda gets the Infinity Stones, essentially she became God level. And I think the scenario I envisioned was that after she dispersed them, the act of destroying the stones and dispersing the matter and the energy back into the universe fractured her into multiversal slivers of herself. And so each version of her in each universe was a piece of that original from the MCU. How do you think could Wanda forward beyond Multiverse of Madness? like what does the MCU do next with her? Oh, my theory on that is that the version of Wanda from Earth, my brain isn't giving me the number now, 838, the one from Multiverse of Madness in the other universe. My theory right now is that Earth 838 and Earth 1999-99 are going to collide, and that part of the storyline leading up to that is going to be the genius characters, Reed Richards. Doctor Strange is going to have to be on that team. Shuri ought to be on that team. Figuring out how to enable the universes to combine rather than collide, and the outcome is going to be that the MCU going forward will be neither Earth 1999-99 nor Earth 838. It will be a new unified universe created by the two, and that the Wanda from 838 will be the new Wanda. With the MCU being in a rut right now, do you think they'll be able to get out of it? I do. I mean, I remember phase 2 being a little bit of a rut, and I remember during phase 2, people being like, oh, the MCU's done. And then looking at what came after that, there's a little bit of a rut now that has a lot to do with things not story related. And I think once those things get sorted out and they kind of remember that their stories were what made the first 3 phases, the first and the third phase and some of the second phase, as good as it was, they'll get back to what they were doing before. I think they got to trust their writers again. Yeah. Not knowing whether or not Kang is going to be... I mean, I'm almost certain Kang is going to remain the big bad, but not knowing how they're going to do that. I assume they're trying to figure out what they're going to do there. It's like there's production elements that are making it feel untethered. And once they get that sorted out, I think they're going to be back on the right track. Some people that MCU doesn't know how to deal or use the multiverse properly. Yeah. I feel like, too, part of the problem is that it all feels too big. When it was just the MCU, just the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse, it was more linear. And now with it being a multiverse, there's so much going on, and there are so many characters that it feels a little directionless. And I'm curious to see if they try to roll back the multiverse going forward. Like, and they're going into Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars is their next, big 2-part Avengers event. And I kind of wonder if the end result of that, I kind of like with my theory that Earth 838 and Earth 1999-99 will combine, if we're not going to get all of the multiverse combining and it being funneled back down into a single universe to streamline it again. Is there a way to give it direction, because Spider-Verse did it well? Spider-Verse did it well because it's focused on it's focused on a couple of main characters and their journey through a multiverse. So it's focused on Miles, it's focused on Gwen. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, in order to do that, would have to focus back down on a couple of main characters at the expense of a lot of other main characters. So I don't know if they're going to do something like that, particularly with how many big name actors they have signed for multiple projects. Unless they can figure out how to do projects that combine all of those characters, they essentially would have to do a string of large ensemble movies. And even then, I feel like you can't just do Infinity War after Infinity War after Infinity War, or it's just going to be too much. I feel like they should look to the comics, because books worth book works on their own, but also work with each other. Right. Yeah. Yeah. The issue and the part of the reason that it has to be more streamlined, and part of the reason that we don't get like Captain America Civil War, the reason that that is not a faithful adaptation of the Civil War in the comics is because when you're publishing hundreds of books a month, you can do a lot more of that sort of migration of characters and stories. When you're making 2 or 3 movies a year, it has to be streamlined. You can't have as many characters, and there's not going to be as much crossover. Did I watch that? I did watch the What If series. I really enjoyed the What If series. The What If series was basically the basis of my What If series, of specifically how I would have written specific characters taking Tony's place in Avengers Infinity War in that final battle. But it is 1:09 my time, so I am going to shut down now. I will be downloading. I hope Hella's coming back. I will be downloading the replay. I will be breaking this up into 3 parts. I will be putting these 3 parts over onto YouTube as the next 3 episodes. And I will be back doing my own thing next Friday. So that'll be July 14th. But I will be streaming again on Tuesday the 11th on 7/11 as we go into the 18th episode of our Wild Mount campaign. I'll be streaming here, but I'll be doing it to drive viewers over to Tannis Jr. 93's channel on Twitch to watch us from there, to drive up his viewership. So, you guys will see me when you see me, and I will talk to you then.